everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of March 13th through the, well, we're probably going to go right around to next Sunday. So we'll be talking about the transits that are going on all the way up until the 20th. Thank you for joining me. Welcome back. Obviously the title of this video is going to be the Virgo full moon. That's the meat of what we're going to be talking about today. Those of you guys who are new to my channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. That way you are subscribed to my channel. You're going to get alerts if you hit the bell button when I put out new videos. We're doing videos every couple days here on the channel now. Every Sunday we do the astro weather for the week ahead. We'll touch on important transits throughout the week, including any lunations. So this week we got a full moon. But if you catch me midweek, you're going to see more of my like astro videos. Some are educational, some are just my astro musings. And if you join me on Saturday nights, we're doing live tarot or astrology readings. We're alternating. Check that out. Also, just very quickly, want to let everybody know my course signups for Astro 101 is live. If you check the links below or you check out my website, it'll take you directly to the page. You can see all the information about my beginner's astrology course. We are starting April 3rd, 2022 on a Sunday, and we're going to be teaching that pretty soon. You can join live. It's going to be an interactive class setting on Zoom, or you can study at your own pace. So if you want to learn how to read astrology the way that I do, you want to learn from me, please do take a look at that. I am hoping to have seats left. Things are getting actually kind of filled. So there's going to be a limited number of people. It's first come, first serve. If you miss it, if it doesn't work for you for whatever reason, don't worry. We're going to be packaging the course and selling it later this summer. All right, thank you for letting me get all the announcements out. Let's get into what's going on astrologically this week. It starts off today on the 13th, Sunday. The moon just recently moved into Leo. But I guess kind of like all week there is this build up until we get to the full moon energy, and we're going to see the moon go through Leo. It's kind of the building phase now prior to the full moon in Virgo. We're going to see it kind of get kicked around a little bit, making oppositions later today and also going into Monday to Mars and Venus in Aquarius, and then ultimately coming into the squares with the nodes. So, you know, also something else that's going on, it was kind of happening Saturday and into today. The sun is still in conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. I don't know about you guys, but I've been feeling it. Lower energy levels, but very creative, very dreamy, very inspired, very spiritual. We talked a little bit about this last week with the conjunctions, and it's now beginning to wrap up. The sun is going to be saying goodbye pretty soon. And actually next weekend, we're going to move into Aries season. So it'll be the astrological new year for everybody. But until then, you know, the sun in Pisces is hanging out still into that conjunction with Neptune. So we can be feeling, like I said, very dreamy, very inspired, very tapped in. Our dreams can be very visual. Our intuition can be really high. But some of us can also be feeling a little lonely, a little worried, a little concerned, and feeling a little isolated, and just really like our heads are spinning, right? So hopefully you took this weekend to kind of relax, kick back, maybe spend some time, if you have warmer weather, by the beach, by a pool, and just really focusing on grounding your energies and resting and being open to receive. Clouds things a little bit, so it's at lower energy levels because of the conjunction with the sun, but it can also be confusing, like not really knowing why we're feeling the way that we're feeling, and there can be a lot of us picking up on energy collectively, so that's something else that I would say to just watch out for. But that energy is passing today. Then we are going to see, like I said, moving into Monday, more so on the 14th, the moon in Leo moves into an opposition with Mars and Venus. It'll actually be happening probably later in the evening on Sunday going into Monday, but you're still going to feel that. Here's the deal. When the moon is in opposition to Mars and Venus, people are active, they're passionate, they can get a little heated. The moon in Leo obviously is very dramatic, very theatrical. And every single time we see now the moon go through Leo, every month, we're going to see that reoccurrence of the grand fixed cross, right? Because the moon is going to square the nodes of the moon in Scorpio and in Taurus, and then it will also oppose Saturn. So really a good time to watch, because I kind of feel like that Sunday night, Monday morning, it's like that uncomfortable, learning to do things different. Hey, we're changing, we're having to figure out how to do something in a different way. And fixed signs don't always respond to change very well. So if you're somebody who is like a Taurus or a Leo or a Scorpio or an Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, you're feeling that more than usual, the pressure. And that pressure, unfortunately, now that we're getting to the second half of March, it's only going to be able to like continue to build. So we'll talk about this a little bit more actually next week, but I just want you guys to be aware that as we start seeing planets get closer and closer to Saturn, we get more serious, more focused, more dedicated, and we're realizing that we have to level up energetically, but also in terms of working with other people. So whenever this moon kind of moves through Leo, the ego can respond. We can kind of go, no, I don't want to do this. And there can kind of be fireworks. So just be mindful that really leading up to the full moon, it's quite active. So on the 14th, we're going to see that opposition. I guess the good news is it can make people very passionate and very adamant about working and collaborating with other people, but it's still reiterating all of that energy while the moon is in Pisces, relating back to the sun and Neptune, like, how do I do this? How does this work? What am I going to do? So we're still kind of learning how to adjust and adapt while not getting affected and sucked into the collective, I would say, like chaos or drama or fears that's currently going on. Now on Tuesday the 15th, we're going to see the sun, the moon coming into the late degrees of Leo, and it's in the opposition to Saturn. So I think maybe like some of the friction starts a little bit on Monday, and then it's really beginning to build on Tuesday. Moon opposed Saturn, having a difficult time emotionally relating, feeling a little emotionally cut off, or maybe not getting the connection that we're needing. And as the moon squares the nodes, I do think it can make us a little reactionary. And I'm also watching the moon make a quincunx to the sun in Pisces. So, you know, when the moon and the sun come into this angle, it's almost like uncomfortable. It's rubbing each other the wrong way. There can be a lot of like people trying to do things to get reactions. So that's something else I would look for because Pisces wants to like let it all go and let it dissolve, and it wants to just let it be. But the moon is really driving home this, no, we got to create drama. We got to stir the pot. You know, look at this, take a look at that. And to me, it feels almost like that build up until we get to the full moon in Virgo, where we really start to sort and sift and ask ourselves, is this real? Is this logical? Is it tangible? Is it healthy? Does this work for me? Does it help me? So once again, fireworks really up until that point. Then when we get to the 16th, which will be Wednesday, that's going to be the moon in Virgo in an opposition to Mercury. It's how do we relate? How do we communicate? How do we make sense of this information, right? It's interesting to see the moon in Virgo because it's very practical, very analytical. But with that opposition to Mercury, but how do I really feel? Does this make sense, right? Especially having Mercury in Pisces. We'll get into that in just a second. I also noticed, and I don't really talk a lot about you know, asteroids. Sometimes I'll talk about Chiron. Sometimes if there's something that really strikes me, I'll talk about it. Something really strikes me with the build up to the full moon. That's Lilith in Gemini. And I think really it's just Lilith can deal with, are we going to let fear run the show, right? Especially in Gemini, are we speaking our fears into reality? Are we giving into fear because of what we're seeing in the media, what we're seeing on television, on screens with the square to the sun and Neptune? Do we really believe what we're saying? Is it driving some kind of point to collectively stir the pot and create fear that's keeping people from fact-checking or questioning what's really going on? So that's something that I want you guys to think about. I think with Mercury also beginning to come into the square here pretty soon, it's how we handle our fears, and are we emotionally disconnecting because we don't want to have conversations that need to be had, okay? Then we see on the 17th, Mercury in Pisces sextiles Uranus in Taurus. So this is nice, innovative ideas. It's shaking things up. It's like, hey, I had this dream, or I had this feeling, I had this intuition. Let's do things differently. So we're going to see new systems, new thought processes. And it's still a little cloudy because we have Mercury in Pisces, but I feel like at least Uranus and Taurus is saying, hey, let's try to be about solutions. Let's try to figure out how we can build this differently, how we can crunch numbers, move things around, and be able to create change. So look for that. It's at 12, so it makes me feel like it's more subliminal, it's more Piscean, especially being in Pisces. And we're gonna see that energy build all the way up until the full moon. Now the full moon is technically going to be hitting here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, same day. This will be factoring into the 18th when we have the full moon. It'll be at least here on the West Coast, particularly early in the morning. Also, it's gonna be pretty early in the morning on the East Coast. But on the 18th, something else I wanna note is the sun in Pisces is going to come into a sextile with Pluto in Capricorn. And on one hand, I feel like, wow, we're really wrapping things up, right? Notice we've got a lot of planets that are moving from Capricorn all the way to Pisces. It's the last kind of quarter of the astrological wheel. Things are wrapping up, winding down, but also late degrees in these signs mean global changes. It's affecting everybody, not just us on a personal level, everyone. So when we see the sun in a sextile to Pluto, we can be uncovering power issues, uncovering issues revolving around where we're giving our power away, where we're letting fear be the driving force for hiding out and kind of doing the lower octave of Pisces or Neptunian energy, which is like freaking out, hiding out, staying under the covers, not wanting to get out of bed, calling in sick to work, spazzing out over things that we're seeing, buying into hysteria. This is a moon that's going to go one of two ways, right? Although it is in Virgo and it's grounding everything out, I want people to realize that this is like the turning point where you have the opportunity to go, I'm envisioning my life going a different direction. I'm building into my power certain things that have been scaring me or limiting me, or certain energies in my life which have really kind of felt like they've had a chokehold. I'm going to let it go, right? I want you guys to think about that. In a way, this is like a wrap up of everything we've been working towards since the new moon in Pisces that we had 2 weeks ago, which was super magical. But also we're wrapping things up that we really set in motion last fall in 2021 when we had the new moon in Virgo. So this full moon is a completion. So you want to think back to what was going on like August going into September of 2021. What were you planning? What were you working towards? And whenever we're dealing with the axis of Pisces and Virgo, these are the houses that I like the most actually, because it's kind of the turning point, at least in the lower half of the chart. When we move from Virgo to Libra, it's sorting and sifting, getting healthy, doing our own things, scheduling stuff, asking for help. So that way we can move fully into Libra and actually partner with other people, right? So it's like, we got to clean up the house. We got to hit the gym. We got to do all these things. We have to be healthy. We have to be complete before we step into the realm of Libra and assist other people or partner with other people or ask other people for help or find a counselor. In Pisces, it's more so the metaphysical, the spiritual, the psychological, the subconscious, and it's dealing more with what are we actually finally going to complete, right? What are we actually going to finish? Karmically, what are we clearing from past lives? Emotionally, you know, what are we dealing with energetically when we're dreaming? What's coming up in our subconscious? What guidance are we getting in meditation? I like to look at the zodiac as 6 signs that are complementary to each other, and there is polarity on both sides. So you can't really look at Virgo without looking at Pisces. Virgo is the one who's going to identify the crisis. They're going to identify the health problem. They're going to get the test results. They're going to, you know, water the plants and take care of everything. It's a really natural, earthy, nurturing type energy. But it's also very mercurial. So it's going to be about information and communication. So one thing that we're going to be kind of working through during this full moon is, thank God for the Virgo energy. I'm just going to say this because with this stellium of planets in Pisces, it almost feels like nothing makes sense. We're just like, you know, screaming into the void. Am I alone on this island? Like, is anybody else feeling this energy? And the Virgo moon's going to kind of step in with its earth trines and also really kind of balance out all of that polarity that's like, well, are we going to let the energies that are kind of going on collectively affect the physical body? Is it healthy for me? How can I transmute it? One of the best pieces of advice I can give you guys is get into nature, okay? That's what Virgo is all about. It's an earth sign, and really grounding your energy out, and whether that is going for a walk, going for a hike, going and putting your feet in the grass, doing some gardening, actually assisting and working with people and being of service. That's another Virgo energy. Can be a really amazing way to kind of ground out all this Pisces energy that can send some people into a tailspin. Now, you guys know I'm not somebody who is going to really make comments about the astrology unless I genuinely feel like this is what's happening. This is an amazing moon to use right before things start getting a little hairy, okay? Because as we get into next week, we're going to see right after this moon, actually, Venus and Mars are going to square Uranus. That's going to be quite active. Venus and Mars are also going to be squared within the days following with the moon in Scorpio. So a couple days after the full moon, we're still going to be feeling this as well, as we see the return of a fixed, square. So to be honest with you, it's like the end of March all the way into April and then May when we have eclipses. It's pretty active. We're going to see quite a bit of change, and it's going to make sense why a lot of us had to really go through the muck the last 3 or 4 months to do a lot of re-strategizing, replanning, and organizing and kind of setting plans in motion, because all of that is really going to start coming full circle April, May, and June. So let's get into the nitty gritty of this particular full moon. It's going to be 12:17, so it's March 18, 2022, 12:17 a.m. Pacific time, 3:17 a.m. Eastern time. Obviously, I know we've got people in all different time zones. Please check your time zones and adjust accordingly. This will be a full moon that's going to be at 27 degrees of Virgo. So let me actually pull it up for the exact time so we can take a look at it. So 12:17 a.m. And here we go. Okay, I'm here in Las Vegas, so that's where I'm doing it from, so it's Pacific. But if you take a look at this, 27 degrees and change of Virgo, and it's going to be opposing the sun in Pisces, so it's a full moon. So Virgo energy is mutable, it's healing, it's cleansing, it's analytical, it's very grounding. And there is big changes that are going to come from this moon if you use it accordingly. Big changes, but also big feelings, actually, believe it or not. You would never really think that when you're thinking about Virgo. Because Virgo is an earth sign, it's very practical, but it's ruled by Mercury. So it's a lot about information, sorting, sifting, organizing things, getting everything in its place. Now, this moon is a moon that rules anything relating to health, wellness, order, breaking things down, breaking things apart, assessing things, the animal kingdom, servants, anybody who gives assistance, right? It's very 6th house Virgo energy. But this is a moon that you want to use to get down to details. And believe it or not, it kind of sounds ironic because Mercury's in Pisces. And start kind of asking yourself, is the physical matching the emotional or the spiritual, right? So we're going to find that whenever we're looking at oppositions between Virgo and Pisces, we're realizing everything is connected, everything is intertwined. The physical does affect the mental or the emotional or the spiritual, and that we can't just look at the practical. Virgo wants us to, but there's this polarity of all these planets that are in Pisces. So it can have us kind of fact-checking, questioning, judging, breaking things down, sorting through things, all of the things that Virgo likes to do. If you've ever seen somebody who is a Virgo sun, or they have like a Virgo rising or like a stellium of planets in the 6th house, you always notice that they're really quick to catch something, right? Like the spelling error, or if something's like off kilter, they'll go and they'll adjust frames and things like that, right? And that's why Virgo is here. They're here to be able to perfect things and kind of show us and give us that constructive criticism so we can make things better. So this is how we want to use this moon. If you guys stay tuned to the end, also, as always, I'll let you know how it's going to affect all of the 12 signs. So just stay tuned for that. It's coming, and I'll be pulling out some cards as well. So let's talk a little bit about the aspects that are going on with this moon. Obviously, you know, every month we're going to have a full moon. This moon is actually called the worm moon. It is because we're getting ready to move into springtime, at least here in the northern hemisphere. Like I said, in about a week, we're going to have the spring equinox. This is when it's almost like the frost is starting to kind of melt and everything is coming back to light, and it's very fertile, right? We have very fertile ground. But some of the aspects that I noticed other than the sun-moon opposition is going to be that the ruler of this moon, which is Mercury, is actually in fall in Pisces. So obviously we like to see Mercury hanging out in Gemini or hanging out in Virgo where it's most comfortable and it can relay information very clearly. But whenever it's falling into Pisces or Sagittarius, we see it either in fall or detriment. And it just kind of says that the energy works differently, right? It's in a polar energy, a polar sign. So when we look at Mercury in Pisces, it's very like psychic, soulful, intuitive, very compassionate, very emotional. If you know anybody, or if you're somebody who has Mercury in Pisces, you know that sometimes feelings and emotions and intuition can be so overwhelming that you can't find the words, right? It's just like getting all choked up and you don't know what to say sometimes. But it's about the brain accessing the subconscious mind, right? Stuff that we're not always totally aware of and things that just might come out of nowhere. So it's amplifying the feeling that you have and connecting that to thoughts. And it's very emotional because it's in a water placement. But it's, like I said, operating within the unconscious rather than the conscious. So it's going to give people the opportunity to look at things from an intuitive standpoint, to look at things more esoterically. Is there like symbolism going on? Are we reading between the lines? It's like smoke and mirrors, crystal balls. And guess what? For the next week or so, Mercury is going to hang out in conjunction to Jupiter and Neptune. And we're going to ask ourselves, are we believing what we see? Are we believing what we hear? Is the narrative changing in certain topics in our lives? Can it be trusted? What's the source for this information? Has that video been altered? Have they changed the tone? Have they edited it to project a very different conversation than what was really had? It's like the telephone game, right? It's like you tell somebody a story, by the time it goes down the line, it comes back to you. It's so incredibly different that it's not even the same story. This is the energy that we are dealing with. I want everybody to be aware of this because I can see with the conjunctions to Neptune and the squares to Lilith, there is a narrative. There is a lot of false information that's going to be put out there very soon. Likely there's going to be campaigns and other things to, like I said, smoke and mirrors, distract. But check your sources. Make sure before you fly off the handles because of something you heard that you don't go relaying this information to 10 other people, because that is why we are going to see lots of chaos and conflict, unfortunately, in the next couple of weeks, because people can get really riled up about an image that they see. You know, we live in the world right now where it's like we're getting a lot of our facts and our news, obviously, from social media. It can be very difficult to cite sources and also know whether or not something is true. Like something can go viral in a matter of seconds, but if people keep resharing, and also spinning narratives and stuff, we're getting into dangerous territory where we're going to make it much more difficult for us to be able to, I think, get to a point where we're really looking at two sides of an opinion and like really doing our research. So it's interesting, all these planets in Pisces, they actually deal very specifically with screens, videos, clips. So I think of like TikTok, stuff that's going to be shown very quickly, stuff that can be altered, stuff that can be fabricated. And stuff like this can spread like wildfire over the next couple of weeks, which can really incite a lot of conflict and also a lot of potential anger and violence, especially when we see Mars and Venus come into the squares. So just be mindful of that when you go sharing stuff or telling people stuff. Really make sure that you're doing your due diligence to kind of really look through all of that and make sure that you check in with yourself, right? Mercury in Pisces is a lot of like, well, do I believe this to be true? right? And that also comes from any scary or potential like world or global news that's coming out. Obviously, some people are really sensitive to some of the events that are going on and also sensitive to the news. So some of you guys might be really kind of taken back when you're hearing things and kind of going, I would rather not know. Trust me, if news needs to get to you, it will. So if you're somebody who is trying to kind of tune out from that and focus on creating your own reality, I encourage you to keep doing that. Now, Mercury will also be in a sextile to Uranus and Taurus, and I think that's another reason why I could see stuff spreading very quickly, especially online or digitally, news involving potential future changes, especially with the economy or what's going on with money and resources, stuff that perhaps has been concealed, set back. I still feel like it's going to take time, like it may still take until Mercury gets into Aries and it starts sextiling Saturn in this next month to really see solid, tangible facts and information when it comes to money and resources. But once again, we got a lot of 12s here, right? So we got, Uranus at a 12. We've got other planets that are hovering around that 12 degrees. So there's some Pisces energy all around, Pluto at 28. So it's making me kind of feel like there's some stuff that's been like secretive or concealed or hidden that's getting ready to be released. And maybe it's like collectively people going like, oh, what's the next thing? We feel like something else is coming. Like we can feel a lot intuitively and emotionally with all these planets in Pisces. And I think that, a lot of people are just really exhausted and they're really run down. And until we get a lot of these planets out of Pisces, which will be closer to May, June, then we're going to start to kind of see things open up and people are going to start being, I think, a little freer and being able to kind of exercise more freedoms all around in general, not just in terms of where they're traveling, but what they can say, right? Also, this moon is in a trine to Pluto and Capricorn. I love that. I think it's amazing. It's one of the most prominent aspects that we're seeing in this chart. The fact that the moon is trining Pluto is deep subconscious emotional drilling, purging, clearing. Great moon to like cut a bad habit, right? Great moon to go, I'm not eating the processed food. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm not going to be putting toxins in my body. I'm doing a cleanse, especially of the gut, right? Because that can be Virgo or anything in regards to the digestive tract in general or the bowels. But it's really wanting to get in there and flush everything and clear everything out. That could be emotionally toxic, toxic in terms of something you've been eating or just exposing yourself to in general. Emotionally, it's really good as well because it's power, right? So when we see the moon trine Pluto, it's very powerful, it's very strong, but in an earthly way. Unlike air trines or fire trines or water trines, which are a little different. Earth trines are going to be grounded, practical, putting things in motion, coming up with a plan. With the sextiles also between Pluto and the planets in Pisces, we can decide, actually we're going to let that power struggle go. We're going to let that toxic belief system go. We're not going to be overworking, oversleeping. These are kind of themes that we see between Pisces and Capricorn. But Pluto in the late degrees of Capricorn is old power systems are finally breaking down. It's happening. It's a bit of a death rattle, but it's happening. And this is institutions that have been in power for a long time, right? So I think of government officials, big banks, big business, and beyond that, right? The powers of the world that are controlling and pulling the strings that we're not really aware of, or shadow governments. With that sextile to everything in Pisces, might kind of feel like the next month or two is like them pulling out all the stops, really trying to scare people. I mean, I'm just going to go off of what the astrology says, but anything that's going to make people fearful or worrisome of going out, being about, feeling safe, having the care that they need, having the security that they need. And possibly even things that are invisible, right? So like a lot of people have asked me in recent weeks, like, oh, is there another, virus coming? Oh, is there, something else that's coming? Likely anything that happens, touch wood that it doesn't, but any narrative that they put out there is going to be something that's invisible. Okay, that's one thing that I want you guys to know. And that can be, looked at a million different ways. Could it be another virus? Sure. But is it real? That's the question, right? Or is this just a narrative? something is dissolving that we're not going to really find out about until closer to about May, June. Now, I also have been following some other things and some of my own selective news listening. I wonder if it's stuff that's connected to some of this stuff that's going on with mosquitoes, and that they're talking about these GMO mosquitoes that they're possibly going to be releasing that's going to go and handle things. But something in the back of my mind feels like with the conjunctions to Neptune and, you know, the sextiles to Pluto and the trines to the South Node, it could potentially be something that we wouldn't see, but oh, it's out there, you know, don't worry, everything's fine, don't worry about it, it's okay. Stuff that also involves the earth, right? Water sources in the earth and where the oceans have been affected and where that's affecting animals and you know, wildlife in general, right? Even though it's Virgo, Virgo is about animals, it's about pets and other things. But it's also, you know, making all of these oppositions to Jupiter and Neptune. How are we affecting the environment? Are we going to find out that there has potentially been an oil or a gas spill? Remember, Neptune deals with liquids, and with the oppositions to the moon in Virgo, I have some concerns just about stuff that may come up environmentally. We have lots of planets that are in mutable signs, which I feel like can create also some particularly crazy weather. So obviously all these planets in Neptune, we've seen flooding in Australia and some other places as well. But I do feel like it's the beginning of what could potentially be some rather crazy stuff in regards to storms in general. I think we'll see more of that when planets move actually through Gemini later this year as well. Also, planets are going to start activating and making more sextiles, not only to Uranus and Taurus, but also to the North Node. So I feel like it's very likely we're going to hear something about rocks and rattles and rumbles and potential either volcanic or earthquake type activity. I know anybody could say that, but I mean, it's really setting up. And my perspective is that if it's something that's happening, just looking at these aspects, it's starting in the ocean. So I'm more concerned about seismic activity that's actually under the sea, things that are going off of the coast, how that's potentially affecting things, not necessarily so much. Because remember, it's sextiling from Pisces actually to Taurus, so it would involve water in some capacity. We've got the moon trine to the North Node as well. So that's the earth trine that I'm talking about. So it's helping us ground out, be well, eat healthy, get in our body, and find practical ways of being able to get back to basics. That's what Taurus and Virgo want to teach us. So it can be a wonderful time for you to go, that's it, you know, we're switching the dog food, it's too expensive, we're making our own food, we want to make sure the pets eat well, okay? It could be we're starting our own garden because we want to feel like we have control and that we can consume healthy food, and we know that it's not going to be a price, you know, hijacked, and we can afford to have healthy fruits and vegetables. But equally, I think it's going to be about us realizing that for us to be able to be wealthy, we must be healthy, right? Wealth isn't just something that is about money and resources. It's, do we have access to healthy food? Do we know how to be able to nourish our bodies? How do we feel in our body? What can we personally control and make better? So just a wonderful moon just to get stuff done. Honestly, you might feel a little energetically drained, but I want everybody to start the next couple day period. If you have a to-do list, probably first sitting and starting with meditating, right? Because all the planets are in Pisces, meditating. What can I get done today, right? What's going to actually make my day easier? And how do I feel in my body right now? Do I feel like I can get all of this stuff done in one day? Okay, I don't. Maybe I need to rest a little bit. I'm going to make sure I get rest, but I'm also going to come up with a plan and a schedule so I can get all of this stuff done in a timely manner, right? So that's how I would kind of recommend using it. Now, the moon's also in a sextile to the South Node in Scorpio. So basically what that's doing is it's allowing us to detox, purge, clear, and cleanse. Recently, this last week, all these planets in Pisces have been trining the South Node. So we're becoming acutely, emotionally aware. Our spidey senses are turning on, going like, this doesn't feel good anymore. I don't enjoy this. This is actually making me feel lower vibration or making me sick, or I'm stressing out about this too much, or I'm obsessing about this too much. I want to let it go. Guys, this is the time to do it before we get into the end of Pisces season, because we're getting ready to start the astrological new year. Boom, Aries season starts. It's going to feel like a little bit of a lag. I think it's going to be more so actually from right around mid-April through June that things are going to start flowing again. But still, it's a really great time. You can set intentions like you would for New Year's Day, and it's actually going to work. With the Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces, obviously spiritual, feeling kind of connected, but also possibly overwhelmed and psychically slimed. So make sure you're taking those salt baths. Make sure that you're getting in water, staying hydrated, taking a dunk in the pool, whatever you got to do. You can even go and hang out at a spa, get a pedicure, get a foot massage, anything like that, foot reflexology. It's really interesting with all the oppositions that we've been having, you know, that's been building every time I've noticed the moon's in Virgo or whatever. Or even the conjunctions to the planets in Pisces, I've been using sound a lot. Sound has been very helpful for me. I've been listening to chimes, I've been listening to binaural beats, I've been listening to like chants and like meditative type music. Usually I'm pretty good about having that on in the background in general, but I've noticed in recent months, I've just been so busy, I've kind of strayed from setting that, that wheel in motion every day when I start my day, right? Virgo is about those little rituals and routines and all of those things that we do. And it doesn't mean that it has to be the woo-woo stuff. It can be, did I take my vitamins today? Did I take the dog for a walk today? Did I make my bed? Did I tidy up, you know, the kitchen? Did I put my dishes in the dishwasher? Did I mow the lawn? I mean, and so when we look at this between Pisces and also Virgo, we can't lose sight of the fact that it's not just all of the busy work. The busy work's important, but we also have to include that spiritual routine. And I am probably like the person who's either all on or all off with that more than anybody else. So I've just noticed in reflecting on this moon, like, wow, I really should be better about cleaning out my altar space and removing the ash and really making sure that I'm scrubbing down with my salt and making sure that I'm taking time to meditate and time to reflect and have time by myself. So I'm not getting bombarded and overwhelmed with what's going on in the world. And I'm not spiraling into the Pisces kind of freak out land where I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's the end of the world. Like, one thing that I've noticed is that with astrology, and I truly believe this, as above, so below, these things would not be happening unless it's time for collective change and time for us to really tune into a new way of life and kind of finding that we're living more spiritually and also physically balanced, right? That's what Pisces and Taurus want to teach us. We're in that quite a bit for the next year or two. Where Pisces can dream it, Taurus can build it. So I want you guys to know that if you're focusing on things that can be negative or things that you're fearful of, pay attention to how much time and energy you're giving to that, right? Because where attention flows, energy goes. And we're going to see that we can actually build things up like mountains out of molehills that if we keep giving that energy to, we're never going to break out of that cycle of trauma drama, right? Virgo knows all about this because they will overanalyze and sometimes fixate over perfection. We have to let go of this idea that things have to be perfect. It's kind of hard when we live in a society like we do now where everything has a filter, it's got a lens, and we're building up this idea of like how people should look, right? I've been thinking about this a lot the last like couple of months because I've realized that it's not even just so much about media, it's about how we're projecting ourselves onto screens and also online and on the internet. If you can have a filter on your face that makes you look like a completely different person, then are we losing touch with what natural beauty is, right? If we're eating all of these foods that are supposedly healthy and prepackaged and wrapped and said, here, just eat this, you know, this is the solution. Do we really know what's in it, right? Do we know where it came from? How do we know it's really good for our bodies? I think we're getting super far away from what it means to just get down to basics and appreciate life the way it should be and the way that we look, the way that we were born or whatever, you know? And it's a little concerning for me because I feel like it can be setting the precedent for having such high expectations and needing to be perfect and needing to all be on this level that we're losing our sense of individuality. Right? We're losing our sense of individuality. So I want you guys to think about that because that's a big theme that's kind of going on right now. We also see the Sun and Neptune come into a sextile with the North Node in Taurus. Like I said, if Pisces can dream it, Taurus can build it. Pisces is the screen, it's the idea, it's the sketch, it's the imagination, it's the projection, it's the plans, the idea of the plans of what it could be that is then relayed over to Virgo or relayed over to Taurus to sort and sift and make it practical, make it real so it can be built. Mars is conjunct Venus in Aquarius. Nothing new. We've been seeing this conjunction for quite some time. Venus is starting to begin to pull ahead of Mars, though, and in the weeks ahead, she will. But right now, Venus is sandwiched in between Mars and Saturn. And if you are a Venus-based chart, so if you're a Libra or a Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, mostly the risings, you're going to feel this conjunction quite a bit. Mars charts love it because they're like, woo, I'm feeling more sexy, more attention, more love than usual. Venus charts are kind of like, ugh, I'm just trapped in like this situation of where I feel like I'm just kind of spinning my wheels. We'll talk about that when we get to the signs. But it's a passionate conjunction. It's just not great because we're going to see the days following, Venus will square Uranus and Taurus. It's going to shake up relationships, money, and values. People are going to kind of freak a little bit. Then we're going to see Mars come into the square with Aquarius, with Uranus and Taurus, and that's going to be more explosive, reactionary kind of anger, right? So I just want you guys to know, I've talked about this, those energies are out there. Right after the full moon, they're going to kick into overdrive. Mars and Venus with the square to Uranus and Taurus, I feel like we're seeing lots of disruptions in finances and in the markets here soon. We're going to see lots of disruptions in relationships, values, people not agreeing. Aquarius is collective, right? Taurus is personal values. You're going to see a lot of keyboard warriors going out there bitching and complaining. Oh, can you believe this party did that? Oh, can you believe that that party did that? Did you see what this president said? Did you see what that president said? And then arguing, right? This is being orchestrated. So just be mindful that a lot of this stuff is being set up primarily to create more conflict and a narrative that it's one party against another, one gender against another, one ethnicity, belief system, affiliation against the other. Be careful. Don't get sucked into the games, guys, because it's going to be something that's going to be happening for the better part of about a month and a half. Now, Mars and Venus is in a sextile to Chiron and Aries. That's at least a little beneficial. We're going to see that sometimes the conflict can be about clearing the air. I'm hoping this is going to help us get to a point in society through some of these transits in Aquarius and the squares that we can actually sit down and be civil with one another. We don't have to agree with each other. We don't have to have the same perspectives, but we do have to be able to communicate, be able to stand our ground and be respectful of one another, right? That's really the goal of this, is that we're going to see so much going on chaotically in the world and in our own personal lives that there's lots of squabbles that are coming, and some of these squabbles can actually show you really where you stand with other people, right? And there can be, with the squares and the fixed signs, ultimatums. People basically being like, if you don't do this, I won't do that. And I get it. I don't agree with it. I feel like it can be extremely conditional. You know, it's like, oh, well, if you have vax, we can't be friends. You can't come to my birthday party. Or, you know, oh, you invested in that. Well, I hate that company for these reasons. Why? So I'm, you know, deleting you off of Facebook. I mean, it's going to be some really petty shit. And I want people to understand that our own personal values are what we're needing to focus on. Respecting and allowing everybody to have their own perspective. If we can do that, we can find peace. But this is a lot, I think, with the sextiles from Mars and Venus to Chiron, that's like, let's agree to disagree. You have your values, I have mine. We can continue to kind of be friends. But if anybody goes beyond that, and if it becomes confrontational, if it becomes aggressive, if it becomes violent or reactionary, then I got to go my own way, because, you know, I can't put myself in a situation of being willing to hurt other people just because we don't agree. Hopefully this is what happens. I have a feeling it's going to take until closer to like June and July before we really start seeing these changes. In the weeks ahead, there is going to probably be protests. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be angry, trying to take to the streets. Probably that'll be happening more in Taurus season, because that's about physicality and things coming together physically, from really Taurus season through Leo season. But I think a lot of the campaigns and things to orchestrate a lot of this anger and a lot of this conflict is coming in this next week. That's why I tell you to be so careful with some of the stuff that you're going to see in the news and that you're going to see on social media. Last but not least, we see Saturn in Aquarius square the nodes of the moon. Well, this is not a drill. These transits that are coming are really about showing up. I've heard a lot of people in my lives that have popped in who have Saturn in Aquarius, and they're like, I'm melting, what do I do? I'm making a video about Saturn returns this week and about Saturn in Aquarius, so stay tuned, because if you're having your Saturn return, this is like the mother of God transits, because it's not just a Saturn return. It is Saturn square the nodes, right? And it's Saturn that's been squaring Uranus. So it's different. Guess what? You're upending things that your elders did. You're doing things different. You're going to be somebody who is going to play an active role in some kind of technological revolution, some spiritual revolution. You guys obviously need some help, so that will be coming shortly. Equally, if you're somebody who's going through your Saturn return, really it's about 27 to 30. Some of you guys, because you also have stelliums in Capricorn, this has been building for several years. So hang in there, stay strong. All right, let's then go to the 19th. Not much is really happening on the 19th. The moon's going to go into Libra. It's going to oppose Chiron. I don't really think we're going to start seeing some of the gnarly stuff that's going to begin to start happening here until the moon gets into Scorpio. But that'll be for next week. So when we do Astro Weather next week, we're going to talk about the spring solstice and what's kind of going on with that and what that's showing us for the season ahead. So yeah, those of you guys who are Pisces that are kind of wrapping up, you're having your birthday on a full moon maybe, that's a big year. You're going to have lots of changes going on this year. So definitely a good time to consider getting a reading. As always, the Sabian symbol, screen of prophecy, Diana Roche. I don't know if you guys saw, but somewhere I did my video where I've been talking about books. I'll try to make sure in this video I pin, and I'll start adding my Amazon affiliate link. Nobody pays me to do these things. Just a lot of people are like, what do you read? How do you get these interpretations? How do you work that into what you're doing? So if you check out the link later, I have some of the tarot decks that I work with that I got on Amazon, and any books that I'm reading or talking about, you will find them on there. So the Sabian symbols is going to give us more of like an esoteric look at the degree of where the full moon is. So 27 degrees and change, it's going to be a 28-degree moon that we're going to look at. So Virgo 28. A bald-headed man. The keyword is dominance. The power of personality. The symbol speaks to the futility of trying to judge the value or power of things and people by title or superficial appearance. The necessity that each individual do more than simply look good or fill a chair at the table of life. The image of a bald-headed man is described in the 1931 mimeograph version of the Sabian symbols as a bald-headed man in uniform completely dominating an assembly of men, diplomats, scientists, and industrialists. The suggestion there is that despite the semblance of importance the important standing in the world, outer rank is no match against the inner driving power of a real personality, who can create a broad opportunity for enriching the lives of all people. At its highest, the symbol represents genuine and universally reorganized and respected authority and exceptional self-mastery. Its negative is highly ingenious but perverse obsession with manipulating and dominating the lives of others. The accent is on the power of personality. The challenge is to find the proper balance between being too heavy-handed and too soft in dealing with others. Very Pisces, Virgo. The greatest advantage lies in compelling the respect by demonstrating self-mastery. Think before you act when emotional matters are involved. Guard against overwhelming others with too many demands. Try not to generate enthusiasm rather than force compliance. That seems right about right. There was something else there that kind of caught my eye. What was it? Superficial appearances. I mean, it's like, you know, just doing things to look good, or are you actually making a difference? Are you actually helping people? That's very much the Virgo energy in opposition to Jupiter and Neptune. I think a lot of people are going to be asking themselves with this moon, like, you know, is this really helping me? Is this helping me, what I'm doing? Being on my phone all the time, is it helping me? You know, actually just showing up and going through the grind, is it helping me? With the trines to Pluto, guys, there is huge changes in power coming. A lot of people don't realize that. And when I say power, I don't mean just governments or political. Global powers are shifting. There is wealth or responsibility. There are things that are being shifted, and we're going to start seeing this in the months ahead. It may take a little bit of time. It might start taking until we see planets setting up in Taurus and we start to realize where that power has shifted. But it's not just about how those powers affect you, but what are you changing within your life? How can you make something better? And where can you really gain, I think, a lot of emotional strength from this moon to go, that's it, I'm cleaning house, right? So now we'll get into the 12 signs and how that's affecting everybody. Please listen to your whole sign. A lot of people have asked me this. Whole sign, okay? Listen to your ascendant. That's what's physically going to happen. Listen to your sun. That's how you're going to, I think, interpret that, or how that might affect you very personally. Your moon sign can be emotionally. If you resonate with your progress chart, awesome. Like I said, choose your own adventure. And I'm so stoked, actually, because I've been waiting to do this video. So I can pull out and show you guys. I'm so excited for this. My Victorian Romantic deck. This is the 4th edition. I'm not sponsored. This is just one of my favorite decks. I'm so crazy. I have Mercury and Pluto in the 2nd. When I got this deck originally, the first version, I ended up getting it, I think, when I was like 17 or 18. And it was one of my first real nice tarot decks, and it came from Baba Studios, who I think was in Prague at the time. I think they've moved since then. I think they're in Ireland now. And it's just that deck that just spoke to me, and I was like, this is it. Ironically, I had that deck forever. It's beat up somewhere. It's like the red and cream colored one, and like it's been used so much, it's almost like paper now. But that was just like the deck that just clicked, and it just helped me see everything very clearly. So I've been buying them ever since. I got the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th edition. And apparently this is the last edition that they're putting out. It's really hard to get the 1st or the 2nd because it's going for, I think, like over $600, $700, $800 for some of them. But every time they come out, I make sure I get a couple extra decks, because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to read tarot if I don't have this deck. So I've got a couple of these, probably about 6 or 7 total extra decks sitting around, so that way when I'm an old lady, I can keep reading these. Anyway, super stoked. I bought these almost a year ago. Let's take a look at what's inside. And this is going to be my very first reading with this deck for you guys. So the little handy dandy book that it comes with. Every time they put out a new version, they change the face of the cards, which I think is kind of cool. And I know they've updated some of the cards as well. So those of you guys who have had all of them all the way through, what a nice box. Usually it comes in like the little paper box that opens, which is still nice. But when these came and I opened the box and I had like 3 or 4 decks and they were all in these little wooden boxes, I was like, what a nice send off, right? Such a nice send off for this deck, because apparently they're not doing it anymore. And obviously we always have like a face card that comes with it. Actually, they sent me like a really nice, I think everybody got one, but they gave me an extra card, and it just said like, thank you for purchasing it, blah, blah, blah. And it was the Queen of Wands. And I was like, wow, that's the energy I've been trying to channel. I've been putting that on my altar. So I added it to my altar. But really pretty back of the cards. It's kind of like that aquamarine. It's kind of coppery. Really awesome. I like that. It looks like very like Muka-esque, you know? I would go through all of them, but I will not bore you guys. I will just go ahead and shuffle these, and then we'll get into it. So let's go ahead and get started with Aries and Aries rising. Aries, what's going on? We've got a new moon, a full moon happening in your 6th house of Virgo. And a lot of the stuff I've been talking about really relates to you. So you're probably sitting there going, yep, that's all happening. Full moon in your 6th house. It is in a trine with Pluto in your 10th and also the North Node in your 2nd. Really great time, I think, to focus on finishing up to-do lists. If you need to, get health or test results, do that. It can be a time where you're really focused on collaborating with people professionally and at work, sticking to a schedule, actually seeing physical, tangible results. I think that this is a wonderful trine for your chart if you're really focused on really getting organized with your money and your resources, because I know that that can be a little stressful right now with some of the squares. And the weeks ahead, you're going to feel that tension in regards to resources, and it's going to help you probably ground it out and get some help or assistance. So if you're somebody who like needs an accountant, maybe you need someone to do your taxes, you need somebody to help you come up with a budget, maybe you need to hire somebody to kind of help you sort through these things, maybe you need a new doctor, maybe you need a new trainer, find somebody who can help you get your power back so you feel like you're in control of this situation, right? So it's not limited to just health, it's also health in terms of finances, health in terms of feeling solid and stable and secure in your body. Really make the most of that, because with the trine to the North Node, it's saying it's to help you accomplish some of the changes that are happening in regards to your resources, right? Aries and Libra rising are the two signs, because there are eclipses in your financial houses, that you are going to see massive changes and swings happening with money. And with the North Node in your second house right now, you are more responsible for making your own money and your own resources. So I think you need some assistance. What do the cards say? Four of Swords. Don't sleep on this, because I could see with all the planets in your 12th house, you're like, I don't want to deal with it. I'll just deal with it next week. Or like, oh, I'm just too exhausted to finish this up. Or like, it's scary. I don't want to go and receive my test results. Or, you know, like really falling back on this. I understand that like we're coming up to your birthday. It can be a little bit of like self-undoing 12th house typical energy, but don't avoid things. Like you need rest and recuperation. You need that balance. But the Virgo full moon is saying you have to show up. And if you need to orchestrate making changes in your schedule so that way you feel better rested, so that way you can show up. If you need to ask for help, so be it. But this makes me feel like that if you don't take initiative, it can be more difficult to deal with down the road. Okay? For Taurus and Taurus rising, we got a full moon in Virgo in a sister sign happening in your 5th house. How romantic is that? We've got a trine between Pluto in your 9th house of philosophy and beliefs and foreign travel to the North Node in your sign. So you're feeling like, what's going on, Taurus? Are you like planning a trip? Are you going somewhere? Are you excited to go away with somebody and have some like romantic getaway? Are you falling in love? Like the 5th house full moon makes me feel like there can be some romance with a coworker. There can be you falling in love with a project. There can be a sense of you talking or planning about the future with a romantic partner or person. There can be lots of growth going on in a professional creative endeavor, and perhaps maybe you're working on something that involves education, publishing, teaching, and you're like, wow, like there's this whole creative side to me that's coming out in the process of doing this. Being that it's an earth sign and is playing very well with all of that energy for you, I think it's empowering you. It's making you realize that there can be freedom when it comes to your creative endeavors. Be mindful that a full moon in the 5th house can bring about lots of stuff in regards to romance, children. Some Tauruses might find out that they're pregnant with a full moon, or that there's something going on with your child and you have to be more involved with children. Or nurturing of children, or children's education, perhaps, maybe. That's something else that can kind of come up. Oh, 2 cards came up. They're going to stick together a little bit, full disclosure, because they're new. The card that came up is the Page of Pentacles. Are you pregnant? Is there a pregnancy? Is there a seed that has been planted? Also, the World card. So this is cool. This is saying that investments, you're planting seeds that are going to grow, right? So if you're talking about it, that could happen. But this is also, have you made an investment? Have you done some research on investments, or possibly like global trade to some extent? The World card is saying something's complete, something's completing. So are you releasing a project out into the world? Are you really excited for people to see it? Are you seeing the very beginnings of what that could bring you financially or in tangible terms? Very exciting for you, Taurus. For Gemini and Gemini rising, this is a full moon in Virgo in your 4th house. So So it involves your home, your family, where you're living. You can see things like selling a house, buying a place, moving, visiting family, having family at your house. This can be a little bit more disorienting for you because it is involving lots of squares to your personal placements. Actually for Gemini, Gemini rising, so you've got all this energy in Pisces in your 4th. The full moon is in, all this energy in Pisces in your 10th. The full moon is in your 4th, and it's going to square your Gemini. So it's going to be like, everything's changing. But a full moon in the 4th is also about reflecting on your roots, your heritage, your family, the past. And you might feel just really overwhelmed and that you're being pulled in 2 different directions between what's going on with your career and also what's happening with your inner world and your family or who you're living with. Now it's in a trine to Pluto that's in your 8th house, and it's also in a trine to the North Node in your 12th. Holy cow. The more that I look at this, this is activating water houses. So it's about releasing, letting go, healing, emotionally moving through things. Unfortunately, for some Geminis, it can be like, oh, I have to go home because, you know, I'm attending a funeral, or, oh, I'm having to say goodbye to my childhood home. I'm very emotional. It's weird because it's in what would typically be water houses. But being that it's involving both your 8th house and also your 12th house, there is an ending coming, Gemini. It's a good thing though, because it's going to help you go further into your future and help you create your dreams. I'm wondering, do you have to move to a new city for work? Do you have to, you know, close on a house so that way you can afford something new? Something's going on there. And I would say that roll with the punches, realize that things are looking really good when it comes to your career, and maybe it's just a matter of now getting back into the workforce in general and focusing more on that. 5 of Cups. So the 5 of Cups coming up tells me that there's some loss, there's some sadness, there's some grief. It's like mourning, letting go, you know, and kind of feeling a little melancholy with the situation. The nice thing is that the next card would be the 6 of Cups. So it's like basically talking about reminiscing. But I think right now you're still going to be kind of looking at and reflecting on like, oh, you know, what I lost or what I let go, or who left or what left my life, right? I would say just keep in mind, okay, if you stay in this energy for too long, it's going to be really hard to pull yourself out of it. It could quickly develop into something that can be feeling like more depressive or more limiting. So try to keep the positive momentum going with what's going on with your career. Don't get caught up in the past or what you lost, okay? For Leo and Leo rising, excuse me, hello, Cancer. Can you tell Mercury's in Pisces? Hello, Cancer and Cancer rising. This is a full moon that is taking place in Virgo in your 3rd house of communications, vehicles, siblings, contracts, writing, information, details, right? I think of details, Virgo in the 3rd. This is involving a trine to Pluto, which is in your 7th house of relationships, and also to the North Node in your 11th house of friendships. Are you needing to have a conversation with a friend? Is there some kind of like defining moment where you discuss your goals with a relationship or a partner? Really, we're focusing on the 3rd house. So it can be an important email, a phone call, a conversation that's powerful. And the fact that it's going to make aspects to Pluto in your 7th house and also the North Node in your 11th, it may involve like a friendship and a relationship and some kind of like conclusion. Like maybe you have a conversation with a friend, oh, I broke up with my boyfriend, whatever. Or maybe it's like a situation where, you know, you or a partner get your feathers ruffled because there's something going on with a friend, and a friend possibly like X's out you or a romantic partner, and then you guys respond to that. Be mindful, okay? Be super mindful, because I think with a full moon in your 3rd, you want to look at the narrative, like what really happened, right? Don't just react, ask questions, really sort and sift through everything to make sense of what's going on. Because with the polarity that's happening in your 3rd house to your 9th, a situation could be magnified and kind of blown out of proportion. And I could see where it could get a little sticky. But if you have to buy a car, really suss that out first. Mercury, yes, it's in, you know, Pisces. It could be being sold on something like a trip, or some kind of idea or conversation being taken out of context. So I kind of feel like you really need to sort and suss through the details more than usual. And before you go, planning a trip, purchasing a trip, or anything in regards to a vehicle or signing a contract, read all the fine print. Because to me, it seems very fuzzy, being that it's in your third house. And I would like you to kind of just feel through that a little bit more. Also be mindful that there may be a need for you to have important conversations with your partner about goals in general. Some of you guys might talk about moving. Some of you guys might talk about leases. Some of you guys might talk about what your goals are when it comes to making a point to have healthier conversations and communications, right? So let's see what the cards say for you, Cancer. 8 of Swords. To me, it seems like you've already felt stuck, and like maybe this is the turning point where you're like, I can't take this anymore. I have to say something. Like, I don't know how to get out of this situation. And maybe that's the conversation, that you share some kind of anxiety or grief or worry with another person, be that a relationship or a friend, about what has been going on and what you've been feeling, right? With the 8 of Swords, it's always mental. So it's not that you're actually stuck. It's that you're seeing the perspective as there's no way out. And maybe when you share that with somebody, they can be able to help you. It's a great time to to talk to an astrologer, speak with a reader, talk to a therapist, work with a counselor. You need somebody to help you kind of sort through this and make sense of what's going on, especially if you're feeling like it's affecting your ability to be a healthy partner in any capacity, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of saying, I feel stuck. I really need some help. I'm scared. For Leo and Leo rising, this is a full moon taking place in your second house of money and resources. This is money you earn, Leo. Really nice. Can be a wonderful time where there can be a chunk of change coming in, or maybe you've you had that new moon in your 8th house with Jupiter. I'm sure some of you guys saw some increased wages, or you saw some benefits, or some payoffs coming from some things. Now it's like, well, what do I do with it, right? What do I do with this money and resources? Really looking at your banking, making sure you're looking at your debt usage, really evaluating, yeah, I got the bonus, do I want to blow it on a trip, or do I want to invest it? Do I want to be careful with it, right? This is where it's interesting, and we're going to see that this full moon is going to be trining for you the Pluto placement in your 6th house, and it's also going to be trining the North Node in your 10th house. So it makes me feel like maybe you were already told you're getting the raise, now it's coming in, right? But more work, more money, they come together, equality. You're going to see that you're going to have to work hard for the money. It's not just going to be handed to you. There's going to be this sense of fulfillment and accomplishment, that you have gotten a raise, or that you got some kind of up in your resources in general. I feel like with the trine to Pluto in your 6th house, it's also just about you organizing your life and your schedule in a way where you're not having any toxicity in your day-to-day. So maybe you've been working really hard and just feeling like you're sticking to a schedule and a routine, and you come out like feeling like you're on top of the world. It can be a time where also there's just huge changes going on with what you value in general. Your self-esteem, your body, this is all kind of second house. And really looking at things and kind of going like, wow, I really value myself, and it's not even so much about the money, but it's just the fact that I got the job done, right? Wow, the card that I get is the 9 of Swords. So interesting. So I'm wondering if this is kind of like you kind of going like, is it coming? Am I getting the bonus? Like, where is the check? Where's the resources? Like, kind of balancing that stuff out, because you had the new moon in the 8th. Maybe you knew that it was coming and you spent some of the money, and then you're like, okay, that check better hit. Or, I took the leap of faith, like, now is it going to pay off, right? This can be talking about worrying about something too much. This can be talking about the anxiety of the situation and whether or not something's going to come through. I'll tell you that with 9 of Swords, it's like, you might be feeling like you're losing sleep over a financial situation, wondering if you're going to be able to cover something. I have to tell you that the horoscope for you is actually pretty decent. But this can also be about worrying about what you could lose, not necessarily money or resources, but what could you lose? What are you losing control of? And I want you to really focus on what you can control, not other people's situations, right? Because you could spend a lot of time and have some sleepless energy if you allow that spiraling to continue. So take care, Leo. Virgo and Virgo rising. Well, this is your moon. It's your show. You are the star of this party. It's either hitting your sun, moon, or rising. It can be an indication that you are completing something personally. You are wrapping something up personally. This is some interesting energy because you have the full moon in your sign in polarity to all of these planets in Pisces. It can have you asking yourself, am I seeing clearly? Do I need to clean my glasses? Is this the real deal? Is this person somebody that I can trust? You've got Mercury, your chart ruler, also in Pisces. So there's a lot of like, are we communicating effectively? Do we see each other the same way? And it can be a moment where you're having to really take a step back and ground out your energies and kind of define who you are separate from other people, right? And you need more time to yourself, or there's much more of an emphasis on yourself, and maybe you're focusing on yourself, and that can either lead to a situation where there's miscommunications with partners, or partners who are seeming a little flighty, right? The horoscope's pretty good though with the transits going through your 7th. I think it's just a moment of re-examining yourself, right? Because you might kind of go, well, am I the same person that I used to be? You know, maybe somebody's really kind of gassing you up and they're really into you and you're like, what? They think I'm so amazing. Like, why? And it's cool because it's going to be trining for you. Pluto in your 5th house of love and romance and creativity. It's also going to be trining the North Node in your 9th house. I think it's really important to be looking at yourself differently and really kind of changing the narrative of whether or not you're lovable, whether or not you are capable, if you're willing to believe in yourself. This is so good for you. I think that it may take the assistance of other people who are coming in and telling you how amazing you are so you can really kind of start to strut your stuff. There can be physical things going on with your body, appearance changes, major haircuts, changes, transformations that are going to have other people kind of going like, whoa, like what's going on with you, who might pique the interest. So I think a lot of you guys might change some user photos or other things and kind of show this new and improved version of you. Maybe come out if you've been in hiding here recently. Oh, look at that. 9 of Pentacles. Baller. This is just like, yeah, it's strutting your stuff, right? Like the 9 of Coins is like, yeah, I'm the shit. I know. And it's being super confident, but not being flashy about it. It's just the Queen of Coins, excuse me, the 9 of Coins is like a kept woman. So she walks around, she's in her fancy clothes, she's buying herself nice things, she's treating herself, but it's not so much about the things, it's about knowing that she's okay on her own. She's a complete person. She doesn't feel like she needs someone to fulfill her. And when you get into that vibe, you're gonna see it's gonna radiate outwards and other people are gonna kind of, you know, notice you, and they're going to pick up on that, and they're going to see you carrying yourself very different, very confidently, very powerfully. And if you are single right now, you're going to be like, I'm great. That's usually when somebody shows up and then you're like, oh, this is like the love of my life. So enjoy this energy while you have it, because the next couple of months, you're going to see there's going to be a lot of transits going on in your relationship house that I think is going to bring big love in, but it has to start with you showing that to the world. For Libra, Libra rising, you got a full moon in Virgo happening in your 12th house, which is kind of ironic because the 12th house is where you kind of spiral out or you retreat or you need privacy. And it's kind of like this clearing energy for you, Libra. It's tying into Pluto in your 4th house of home and family. I think unveiling family secrets, you know, or it can be with the trine also to the North Node in your 8th. Libra and Gemini, these are going to be the 2 signs that are dealing with death, loss, grief, transition, letting go. And like Libra, you know, it's like if you have to cut some bad habits, you have to cut some bad habits. It's funny because you're kind of backwards the way that Virgo is usually in the 6th, it's in your 12th. So it's about literally taking practical steps to be better grounded spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, not letting yourself spiral out with bad habits. In the background, I'm a Libra rising. I've said this for years. I have noticed every full moon, it's like all the bad habits come out when it's in Virgo for me. And that's always that period between the new moon in Pisces and the full moon in Virgo. That's like, okay, I'm going to get it all out of my system. Then I'm going to be good, right? So there can be like kind of being up late at night, spiraling out, worrying. You know, Virgo can deal with anxiety when it's in your 12th house, not sleeping well. But it's making trines to Pluto in your 4th of family. So you're clearing some kind of family garbage, or you're realizing that by decluttering emotionally and psychologically, you feel a little bit better grounded. And it's trining the North Node in your 8th house of change and transformation. Libra, use this trine to be able to clear out the past so you're not obsessively thinking about it, so you're not carrying it into your future, because big change is on the way for you, okay? It's very, very, very important. Can also be with the oppositions to your 6th house, that there might be some two-faced stuff going on at work, or some coworkers that you need to just be mindful of, or people who's working for you that you may not be able to trust. So look for that. 2 of Cups, that's weird. So this is about partnership and relationship energy. So I could see where it's making aspects to your 8th house that it's kind of like clearing things out a little bit. It can be about going deeper in intimacy, having somebody who's willing to assist you, to help you. It's about partnerships. It can be, I think, interesting because Mars and Venus, which does rule relationships for you, are in your 5th, and maybe you're getting a little anxious about what's going to happen with relationships. Maybe because you're kind of having some reactions to some things from the past, it's affecting relationships. Thankfully, it looks like you have somebody who's there, who's got your back, who's going to be like, don't worry about it, it's fine, we've got this, how can I help you, right? 2 of Cups is how can I assist you? So it can be about people coming in and wanting to collaborate with you and help you feel supported, but you have to ask for that, you have to show up, and you have to be available, okay? Kind of a weird card for that to be coming up for that. So Libra risings too, let me know how that plays out for you. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you got a full moon in Virgo happening in your 11th house of friends, goals, and networking. Can be a wonderful time for socializing, focusing on your goals, celebrating some kind of accomplishment, some kind of completion, something that you want to tell your friends, something that your friends are celebrating or praising and promoting if you're doing anything big. Now it's going to be making trines to Pluto in your 3rd house of communication, the internet, apps, phone calls, movement. And it's also going to be making trines to your North Node in your 7th house. Scorpio, it's almost like you have so much support from people right now. You have people that are going to be sharing things that you're working on. You're going to have groups and networks that you're joining that are going to praise what you're doing. You're going to have friends that are wanting to repost and wanting to share things that you're completing. Maybe you're really sharing some kind of goal that you've completed with a partner, with the trines to Uranus and the North Node in your 7th house. I get the impression that there's this turning point conversation that's like, yeah, we did it. Like, we did it. We made it happen. Keep in mind, it's opposing all that energy in your 5th house. So it's about creative inspiration and desire and love and being able to just let the pieces come together, that you're like, wow, everything kind of set up quite perfectly. It's almost too good to be true for Scorpio. Some Scorpios are like, what? What's the catch? Don't worry, your guys' stuff comes next week. But for the most part, I would say if you have to join a group or an association, or if you want to share something you're completing with friends, or maybe you're celebrating some accomplishment with friends and you're also bringing your partner gets to join in on that, it looks quite positive in my opinion. Look at that, 3 of Cups. It is. Wonderful card. I was wondering if it was going to be this card because I can see that there's like some good news that you're getting ready to share with people. And you're really stoked. Other people are celebrating this. It might be an invitation, a party, a get together. It might just be people who are just like really singing your praises and celebrating with you. So I want you to realize that there are people who are going to be on your team this month or because of this full moon who are really going to encourage you to keep going, and they're going to tell you that you're doing a good job. It might involve a couple people. It might involve a team of 3. So look for that. For Sag and Sag rising, we got a full moon in Virgo in your 10th house. And similar to Gemini and Virgo, it's a little uncomfortable for you. You're feeling the square. 10th house is your career, so it's going to be dealing with big things happening in your career, things that you're wanting to push forward, that you're wanting to have come together. It's a little bit of conflicting energy, right? Because you have all of this Pisces, it's in your 4th house. So maybe you're really focusing on trying to complete things at work or trying to launch something or have meetings, but it's like all hell's breaking loose at home and you're like, oh my God, the kid's sick. I have to cancel my meeting. I have to hurry home because I actually have to meet the plumber because there's something going on and being worked on at home, or I'm moving, so I actually have to take time off. You're going to feel the stress of balancing these things. And one thing I would say is keep in mind that with Jupiter and all the placements in Pisces right now, it wants to give you better security in your home and your emotions. It wants to help you big time. But by the same token, you can't really lose track of your responsibilities at work. I would say try to stay grounded there. Now it's going to be trining Pluto in your 2nd house of money that you make and resources. And it's also going to be trining the North Node in your 6th. Personally, I kind of feel like, especially if you're a business owner or even if you're self-employed or if you're a manager, the lesson is going to be in delegating tasks so that way everything is working smoothly. So it's like, is it worth you hiring people to help you through a busy season? Is it worth hiring an assistant? Does it make sense? You know, are the people that are working for you, are they doing their job? You might kind of throw your hands up in the air and go, that's it, I can't take it anymore. Like I need to, you know, get somebody who's going to help me manage my business, or somebody who's going to organize my office, or kind of help me complete all of these things. Because to me, it looks like this is a year of focusing more on home, focusing more on family. Not that career stuff can't happen, but because of this moon and also in April, May, there's a lot of reorganizing your schedule and your workspace. And I'm wondering if like expanding means that you need to actually hire help to have a better work-life balance. Okay. So let's see what the cards say for you. Page of Pentacles. So you got that too. I mean, is it worth it? Is it worth making the investment? I think it is. I think it's also talking a lot about you starting to really see all of the seeds that you planted last fall really coming into full bloom. Some of you guys are having full-blown business launches. Some of you guys are getting changes in your title. Some of you guys are getting raises. Other people are moving to bigger spaces, bigger offices. Maybe you're returning back to the office. Regardless of what it is, to me, it looks like it's the beginning of something that could be brand new, and it may be worth making more of a time or a financial investment to see it all the way through. It might be worth it, right? It might be worth hiring somebody or having somebody help you just for the peace of mind. Look for a busy time and lots to be going on with finances in your career. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this is a full moon in Virgo in your 9th house. It's a sister sign, so it works well with you. The 9th house full moon can be topics like law, attorneys, teaching, travel, philosophy, your belief system. Being that it's happening in Virgo, I feel like it could be somebody who's a teacher or a mentor or a guru or even like a lawyer who's helping you look through all of the details. If you're trying to publish something or start a course, it might be somebody who helps you with that process and gives you a little bit of direction. I think that being that it's in a trine to Pluto in your 1st house and also the North Node in your 5th, you're realizing like, I want to be a teacher, I want to write, I want to publish, I want to travel, I want to play. You're coming into some like really yummy energy with this trine that's going to have your heart kind of crack wide open and go, that's it, I'm booking the flight, I'm going somewhere. You know, I know that it may not be the best timing, but I really need a little bit of a break with the trine actually to the North Node in your 5th. Maybe it's about some kind of possible, you know, opportunity to work at a distance or go on a work trip, but also squeeze a little fun in there as well. I think it's also going to have you really believing in yourself when it comes to either your love life or creativity and kind of seeing the bigger picture and what the real purpose is. And I think it's going to kind of get some wheels spinning for you with all those planets in Pisces, having you think about new ways that you can connect, communicate, and also relate to the world, right? The moon. So it is a full moon and it's going to be happening obviously in your 9th house. But what I'm really feeling is that this is also about like the puzzle pieces coming together and learning to kind of trust in your intuition. Maybe it's been dreams, maybe it's been something intuitively telling you with all these retrogrades the last couple of months, something's changing, something's coming. But the moon is saying something is about to be unveiled to you. So it definitely deals with your 9th house. Now, I could also see this being a situation where it brings in somebody who's a guru or somebody who's going to kind of teach you what direction to go in, somebody who has some kind of foresight. So it can be talking about a reading. It can also be talking about you just finally coming to this point where you're like, I just got to go with my gut. And I know that this is where I'm supposed to travel, what I'm supposed to do, what course I'm supposed to take. Something like that kind of comes together. And there's a lot of mysticism and things that are being unveiled. But ultimately, I think it has to do with your personal power because of the trines to Pluto. Now we have Aquarius and Aquarius rising. This is in your 8th house. So it is the spookier house, I would say. This is like where all the skeletons in the closets kind of get cleared out. And the 8th house can deal with joint resources and other people's money. And it can deal with money that is owed. So think of like debts, loans, credit cards, taxes, inheritances, things like that. Some of you guys might get a bit of a shock and a surprise when it comes to doing your taxes and really needing to have somebody who can get into the nitty-gritty and take a look at everything that's going on there. Obviously not a bad problem to have, Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You got Jupiter in your 2nd house, so money, more problems. Maybe you made more money and you're like, whoa, that's my tax bill. Or you're trying to figure out how you can move money and resources around. Now it's going to be making a trine to Pluto in your 12th house and also to the North Node in your 4th. So maybe something involving like business and taxes and real estate and like, okay, what do I have to do? I sold something, I have to reinvest money. Can I do it in time? What is my budget? Things like that. Similar to Gemini and also Libra, you got a lot of these trines happening in what is typically water houses, more emotional, private, hidden, psychic houses. So it does kind of make me feel like a full moon in your 8th, you're saying goodbye to something, you're letting something go, you're releasing it, you're cutting it off. But that's because you've got more resources coming in. So there's going to be an ending, but it's going to come with a beginning. And I really feel like a lot of you are thinking seriously about changes in your home zone because it's trining the North Node, and that's in Taurus in your 4th. Some of you guys might be considering moving to another country and you're trying to figure out how to facilitate that, what kind of assets you need to move. Some of you guys are figuring out like, okay, I finally have to deal with a financial situation so I can be more independent. I got to get out of debt so I can focus on my goals when it comes to where I'm living later this year. 3 of Cups. So, I mean, considering that that's a full moon in the 8th, I guess the one thing I would say is that you want to watch out for too many people getting involved. Sometimes secrets are exposed when you're dealing with an eclipse or a full moon or anything like that in the 8th house. So I kind of get the impression that it's going to be something positive that comes from it. It's going to be something that's good, but this can also be like clearing out if you've got one too many people that you're dealing with in your life, or you feel like you've got too many people that are kind of draining you financially and taking from you. You might be like, okay, I'm celebrating the fact that I'm letting this go. Sometimes 3 of Cups is 3 is a crowd. So if you are dealing with a situation where there's been more than one kind of romantic connection and like you want to clear somebody out, or maybe you find out that there's something kind of unsavory going on, sometimes that can happen. But you got Mars and Venus right now that's in your sign and it's conjunct Saturn. So I think it's just more about you going, I'm having better boundaries with people. I don't really feel like I can just be giving all of myself, my energy, my resources away, and maybe celebrating that, okay? Freedom. And last but not least, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. We have a full moon in your 7th house of relationships. Wowzers, that's a big one. Big things going on in regards to relationships for you. Can be a make or break time, definitive times, but doesn't have to be scary. It can be a time where you're really kind of asking yourself, do I align with this relationship? Does it work for me? Can I be myself in it? Are they there for me? What's going on with them? It's interesting to see your 7th house ruler Mercury in your sign conjunct Jupiter. The question is, are you choosing to be alone until the perfect person comes along? Are you manifesting somebody right now? Are you focusing more on trying to be the kind of partner that you would want to bring into your life? Because there's a lot of looking at people and kind of deciding, is that what I want? Is that a good reflection of where I'm going with my life? Are we compatible? Now it's going to make a trine to Pluto in your 11th house of goals, friendships, and associations. It's also going to make a trine to the North Node in Taurus in your 3rd. Has me feeling like there can be some conversations where you're like asking your friends, like, what do you think about this person? Like, do you think we're compatible? There can be a sense of like introducing friends to new romantic partners and seeing how it goes. Can be a moment where like friends are maybe trying to set you up with somebody, or they're like, hey, I have somebody that I think you would get on with well. You could meet somebody while you're traveling a short distance, or maybe even on an app. That's something else that's positive. Maybe you're talking to people in different cities and you're just kind of getting set up. Maybe you join a dating website with the trine to Pluto in your 11th. For some of you guys, a friendship could become more romantic. It could be like you're talking to somebody and they're like, well, I'm interested in you, and you had no idea, and you're like, oh my gosh, this has been in front of me all along, and it might strike your interest a little bit. But nevertheless, when in doubt with this full moon, whether it's relationships romantically or with friends, communicate. There is a need to communicate and relate to people in a physical way. So it's like making the phone call, reaching out, talking to them, offering advice, things like that. Ooh, 6 of Cups. Does somebody come back? Some Pisces are like, oh, I hope not. This can be about reminiscing and thinking about somebody from the past. It can be somebody who returns. It's interesting because it might catch you off guard. It's not something that you saw coming. Pisces, you're super intuitive. You're very tapped in. If you're having dreams about somebody, thinking about somebody, connecting with them, tell them, stop bothering me on the astral. Come to me in real life. You might be surprised to see how quickly that manifests. And really, I really feel like this is like really romantic and kind of like soulmatey. I don't like saying that, but the 6 of Cups is somebody who is kind of showing up, and they're offering you some really genuine, sweet and innocent kind of connection. So if you've been having rocky times with a relationship, a reconciliation can be happening. Equally, if you've been hoping to hear from someone, you just might. Hopefully that was helpful, guys. Thank you for joining me for this week's Astro Weather, talking all about the full moon. Let me know, where is the full moon in Virgo happening in your horoscope? What are you feeling? You can even come back and let me know what played out for you. I would love to hear that. Just a little bit of stuff about the channel this week. On Saturday night, 7 o'clock Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing live tarot readings on the channel. Stay tuned. I'll be putting the link out in my social media in the community tab later this week. Like I said, my classes are live and they're filling up quickly, so make sure you also check out the link. If you want to study with me, I'm offering $100 off for everybody who signs up prior to the course. Once the course date is getting ready to start, we're going to close it down. I don't know when I will teach it live again. I have to say that because I'm planning on doing them in a sequence. I'm going to keep building and teaching more and more so I can have advanced students. I'm also thinking about doing a tarot course. What do you guys think about that? Do you want me to teach a tarot course, a beginner's course? And I'm thinking about doing webinars, start teaching webinars and doing that for one-offs about specific kind of astrology techniques and also for eclipses. Would you guys like that? But yeah, it starts April 3rd, so give it a chance and take a look. Also, if you guys are fans of my podcast that I do with the Peace Dealer, the Midheaven podcast, we've got a new episode coming out on Monday. And that's going to be all about Aries season. We talk all about the transits of Aries season if you want to get a preview. And I've got some sessions open for April going into May. I've got a lot of stuff going on with courses. I'm also going to be traveling for a little bit at the end of April going into May. So my schedule's changing a little bit because I'm creating more content. So people have kind of noticed like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to you for, 5, 6 to 8 weeks at a time. Things are getting quite busy with the eclipses. So if your birthday's coming up, if you would like to get a reading, if you want to gift a reading, check out my website below. I have everything from either a full or half-hour option. All of my sessions will include astrology as well as tarot. Usually for an hour, we'll look at like a solar return chart, predictions for the year, questions that you have about aspects in your astrology. I will be telling you what I see clairvoyantly as well as looking at the cards. I also offer 1 or 3 question offers. So if you just need a quick question, you can get that on my website as well. Otherwise, hopefully this moon is good to you guys. Remember to take your power back, really focus on grounding that energy out, and let's get practical about making sense of where our futures are going and stay optimistic. I'll talk to all of you guys very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.